I know that multiple colleagues on this side of the aisle have faced death threats. In fact, somebody tried to kill one of my colleagues, and frankly, I don't know if this FBI or under your leadership, if those people would have been caught. I don't have any confidence in you. And if we start talking about the reasons that I lack confidence, we could start with you not just wanting to acknowledge some simple facts. Simple facts like the vast majority of the threats are coming from right-wing extremism. And I know my colleagues have tried to stress this, but I decided that I would maybe do it in a different way.
What you're about to see is Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett pressing FBI Director Kash Patel on why so many Americans have lost confidence in the Bureau's leadership. Before we dive in, please take a moment to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comment. I'll give my full breakdown and take at the end of this debate.
Man, oh man, there has been so much today, and I truly don't know where to start. So I'm just going to make sure that we start off with a few facts. So a couple of facts that we need to make clear for everyone is that, number one, Director Christopher Wray, when he was appointed to be the head of the FBI, was appointed by Donald Trump. Now, I will agree that I definitely take issue with a number of decisions that Donald Trump makes, especially when it comes to the people that he decides to appoint to very important positions, including this one, because I did have to make sure that I wasn't going crazy. But when I say that you are the least qualified FBI director in the history of the FBI, that is real, because you are the only one that never even served with the FBI prior to joining, yet we are supposed to believe that you are the greatest thing since sliced bread. I didn't ask you a question. Now, what I want to go through is to talk about why you are a failure and why, honestly, we just need to tell you bye-bye. I know that you got a little upset and you put on your show for your boss because it seems like you're trying to save your job when it came to talking to Senator Booker yesterday. But let's go through some of your failures. So before you were even confirmed, and I think one of my colleague from Georgia, pointed out that you were already targeting career officials so that you could direct illegal firings. Mind you, these cases that you were so upset about, which are the ones tied to Trump, the cases came through his handpicked FBI director. And frankly, when people sit around and say things like, oh, you know, we're happy because now we feel safe, I don't know who feels safe in this country except for the white supremacist, because I specifically as a black woman definitely don't feel safe. And frankly, my colleagues have been real nice to you today, and I applaud them, but I don't have the same demeanor because I know that multiple colleagues on this side of the aisle have faced death threats. In fact, somebody tried to kill one of my colleagues, and frankly, I don't know if this FBI or under your leadership, if those people would have been caught. I don't have any confidence in you. And if we start talking about the reasons that I lack confidence, we could start with you not just wanting to acknowledge some simple facts. Simple facts like the vast majority of the threats are coming from right-wing extremism. And I know my colleagues have tried to stress this, but I decided that I would maybe do it in a different way. Number one, I have a couple of UCs. Kim Buck, one of multiple Republicans receiving death threats for voting against Jim Jordan as House Speaker.
Without objection.
Another one, Republican lawmaker says she received death threats after voting against Jim Jordan in Speaker's race.
Without objection.
In addition, there was another one from another colleague who now is leaving Congress because they said that they were calling his wife anonymously and threatening her life to the extent that she ended up sleeping with a firearm.
Without objection.
Okay, so here's the deal. How are we supposed to have confidence when you're sitting up here telling the Senate yesterday that it will take you 14 years before you can get the FBI fully staffed to do their jobs? You're also now redirecting resources so that they can go and play ICE agents on the streets. You're getting rid of your most qualified people. And even when it came down to somebody that you consider to be a friend, you were posted up having some fancy dinner to the extent that you posted not only once, erroneously. You post it twice erroneously as it relates to catching somebody, and then you want to go and say, let me take a victory lap, because honestly, if it wasn't for parents deciding that they were going to turn in their child, it seems like y'all wouldn't have got there. Even though he literally confessed online. So I'm confused about what it is that the FBI is doing, except for trying to put on a show for the apprentice, or whatever you want to call him. The day after all of this took place, there was domestic terrorism that was taking place at HBCUs. They were targeted. Yet I didn't hear anything from the FBI about what was going on. And again, black people kept saying, how did we end up in this? Because the numbers are so very clear that white supremacy is a problem. And honestly, I've not heard anything out of you today that makes me believe that you're going to do anything about the white supremacy problem. The one that is leading to children being killed, children being shot, as well as members of their community as they're worshiping in their churches.
The time of the gentlelady has expired. If the gentleman would like to respond to any of that. Well, I mean, I'll respond. Kash Patel, as I said when I introduced him, public defender, former prosecutor, top staffer on the House Intelligence Committee, Deputy Director of National Intelligence with the National Security Council, Chief of Staff at the Department of Defense, and FBI Director. I think that's a pretty good resume for the guy who's now running the top law enforcement agency in our country. And we've seen all the stats that he's given to the committee on how much better they're doing at getting the bad guys than the previous guy was doing. With that, I recognize the gentleman from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Patel, I think you're witnessing some auditions, clickbait auditions for the Academy Award for my Democratic colleagues. We'll see how they fare as they're on MSNBC later on today. But do you care, before I launch into my line of questioning, to respond to Ms. Crockett from Texas on that very elaborate and theatric display?
Here's what I've learned in my government service. I don't give a damn what they say about me as long as I'm succeeding in the mission. We're succeeding in the mission because the men and women of the FBI have never been empowered to do more work and to hit the streets harder than by President Trump's authorities and resources he's given us. And so all I care about is that we are capturing more child predators than ever before, taking more drugs off the streets than ever before, that we are capturing murderers at a significantly historic rate, and we're delivering this country the lowest murder rate in recorded history. That are facts.
What we all just witnessed wasn't simply a heated exchange. It was a collision between two competing visions of what the FBI should be. A professional institution rooted in experience and constitutional duty, or a political weapon shaped to please one leader. The Congresswoman's remarks laid bare a concern many Americans share. If the FBI director owes his job not to qualifications, but to his loyalty to a former president, how can the public trust him to act independently? Every previous director across Republican and Democratic administrations built their career within the Bureau. They earned credibility through years of understanding the institution from the inside. Patel, according to her, lacks that foundation entirely. If true, that's not just a resume issue, that's a national security issue. Because the director of the FBI shouldn't be learning how the agency works on the job while also trying to respond to rising threats. And the threats are not abstract. Members of Congress, including Republicans who refuse to support Donald Trump's preferred speaker candidate, have reportedly faced violent intimidation and death threats, allegedly driven by right-wing extremism. These aren't fringe hypotheticals. These are elected officials being targeted in ways that undermine democratic governance. Multiple federal threat assessments in recent years have identified white supremacist-inspired violence as a leading domestic terror concern. Yet, under Patel's leadership, the Congresswoman argued that acknowledging this reality has been avoided or downplayed. When a director refuses to recognize the direction danger is coming from, communities are left exposed. Black Americans, Jewish Americans, vulnerable faith communities, the people most impacted by hate-driven violence, deserve active protection, not silence. Even more alarming is her claim that the FBI's resources are being redirected to support partisan immigration crackdowns rather than focusing on the most urgent domestic threats. If agents are being pulled away from monitoring extremist networks to fulfill a political agenda, that raises a fundamental question. Is public safety being compromised to score political points? The hearing highlighted examples where arrests were allegedly mishandled or celebrated prematurely. If victories are announced before the facts are confirmed and then leveraged as political theater confidence crumbles, law enforcement shouldn't be about photo ops or applause lines. It should be about skilled intelligence work that prevents violence before it happens. Then comes the most chilling moment, Patel reportedly stating that he doesn't care what Congress says about him. That is not the attitude of a public servant accountable to the people. The FBI director answers to democratic oversight, not to personal ego or partisan loyalty. When the individual leading the nation's foremost domestic law enforcement agency shows indifference toward accountability, it signals something dangerous, a belief that power doesn't need permission. That belief has led nations down dark paths before. This hearing wasn't just about who sits in Patel's chair. It was about whether Americans can trust that chair at all. Trust that investigations are driven by facts, not vendettas. Trust that threats against vulnerable communities will be addressed, not ignored. Trust that the Constitution, not political allegiance, guides the FBI's decisions. The Congresswoman's message was clear. Without that trust, democracy becomes weaker, and those who rely on institutions for protection are left wondering if the system still works for them. Because at the end of the day, the issue isn't one fiery exchange or one director's resume. It's whether the rule of law remains stronger than any single politician's influence. And preserving that principle isn't optional, it's the only way a democracy survives.